Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
If she hadn't pushed him away, Nigel felt he could have kissed her forever. He stared at the woman sticking close to the door in disbelief, his gaze burning with the passion that was usually not there. Queenie blushed and averted her gaze the instant she met his eyes, then fiddled with her fingers awkwardly. He poked the insides of his cheeks with his tongue and explained, "Listen closely, Julian's my best friend. Say he's my boyfriend again, and I'll kiss you." "I don't mind doing that." She blinked her eyes in shock. Are you sure he's not your boyfriend?" Seeing the doubtful expression on her face, he couldn't stop himself from roaring, "I'm straight, you hear that?" Queenie felt her ears buzz and almost leaped up at his sudden roar. "I should speak up for Julian, or she might think he's not straight." Nigel snorted. "Julian is straight too. If you try to match us up again," he curled his fingers up and threatened to knock on her head. She quickly held her head and responded, "Fine, fine. I got it already, Mr. Manson." He was still a little miffed, so he flicked her arms, earning a gasp from her. "That hurts." "That's the point." His lips curled into a smirk. Queenie shot him a glare. "You could have just said so, that kiss was unnecessary." Nigel started up the car and snorted again. "You think I wanted to kiss you? I just wanted to prove my point and stop you from coming up with stupid theories again." She wanted to get mad at him, but she couldn't. After all, she was the one poking around with his business, so she could only accept the consequences followed by her action. In the meantime, a couple was getting out of a car. The guy was trying to cheer the girl up as he opened the door for her and pulled her out of the seat. The girl pursed her lips and got out reluctantly. "I'm sorry, Bonnie. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have let my mind run wild," Leslie apologized. "If you think I'm cheating on you, we can break up." "I have a line of men who would kill to be my boyfriend," Bonnie snapped. He quickly held her hand. "I'm sorry, but you wouldn't take my calls, and I was worried. Look, I have reserved a spot at your favorite restaurant. Let's go inside." "Don't be mad already, all right?" She finally cheered up. The food here cost a ton, but she wasn't worried. After all, she wasn't paying for her meals, Leslie was. Not long after they went into the restaurant, Nigel showed up and parked his car. Queenie got out of the car, and Nigel stood beside her. She looked rather petite under the light. She was wearing a long green dress and had not put on any makeup, but that only served to make her look even more refreshing, unlike most women. "This place isn't cheap," she muttered under her breath. She had come here once, and it cost about $1,400 just to have a meal. Nigel cocked his eyebrow. "Are you saying we should leave?" "No, we should go in," she quickly answered and shook her head like a kid. "He's paying. Might as well take advantage of it. It's not like one little meal can bankrupt him." He was about to pat her head, but then he thought it was inappropriate, so he balled his fist and pulled his hand back. They went up to the top floor. The place looked like a portrait with the sunset as its backdrop. "We'll take the table by the window," Queenie told the waitress and went to the last window seat. The waitress apologized, "Sorry, miss, but this spot is reserved. They're in the bathroom right now." "Well, this is awkward." Queenie took the spot beside the window seat. She couldn't have a full view of the vista, but she was still okay. "I think we should get ourselves a room," Nigel suggested. He didn't like having his meals in the common area. "But I liked the common area." Queenie loved lively places, and she didn't want to stay in a room alone with him. "Guess there's nothing I can do about that." Nigel then pulled back the chair opposite her and sat down. She skimmed through the menu. Wow, the food costs a lot. She ordered a few of her favorites and handed the menu back to the waitress. On the other hand, Nigel had ordered a lot of food. The food here was great, but the portions were minuscule. But since he has ordered a ton, I can now eat all I want. After that, the waiter poured 2 glasses of wine for them. Queenie held up the glass and took a sip as she enjoyed the sunset view. The beauty mark under her eyes stood out like a little glowing obsidian. Nigel was sipping on his wine as well, but instead of the sunset, he was enjoying the view of the lady before him. He couldn't believe the kiss just now almost made him lose control of himself. The feeling was so overwhelming that he even had a strong physical reaction. That never happened before. Even when he had a crush on Anastasia, he felt more respect than affection for her, so he had never touched her before. However, when Queenie said he wasn't straight, he just felt the need to prove that he was indeed into women, and the kiss was the best way to go. Queenie noticed someone coming out of the restroom, and she looked at them, but all it did was stoke her hatred. What a coincidence. It just has to be them that we run into out of all the people out there. Bonnie was holding Leslie's hand, coming back to their spot with her head held high like a proud peacock. Just as she was about to flip her hair with her other hand, her movement froze when her eyes met Queenie's gaze. Her eyes went wide. It was surprising to see Queenie and Nigel here, and even more surprisingly, their seat was right next to hers. Bonnie quickly pulled back her hand, which was held by Leslie, as if doing so could prevent a misunderstanding. Leslie saw them both as well, and his face fell. Did she bring him here to get her revenge on me? Queenie, fancy seeing you here. Bonnie approached Queenie with a big smile. She then greeted Nigel as well. Hello, Mr. Manson. We meet again. Nigel frowned at the couple. He disliked getting disturbed. We should go back to our table now. Leslie tried to take Bonnie back to their table. She purposely evaded Leslie's touch stiffly, but then willingly returned to her seat after a brief contemplation. After all, she was facing Nigel. She could still impress him right over her spot. Dad and Mom are worried about you, Queenie. Come home. Please don't make them worry, all right? She put on a concerned act. Queenie sipped some wine and looked at her. I'll come home tonight. Nigel clenched his glass and narrowed his eyes. She's going home? Leslie looked upset as well. Never thought she'd be capable enough to date someone like Nigel. He's super rich. He also noticed how Bonnie was staring at Nigel from time to time. The common area is a bit rowdy. Why don't we get a room? Leslie decided to stay away from Nigel and Queenie since he felt uneasy around them. I think being here is fine. Bonnie refused to change spots. She loved to keep Nigel in her sights. However, right then, Nigel waved at the waiter, who quickly came over. What can I do for you, sir? Get us a room, Nigel said. Room number 8 is vacant. I'll take you there. The waiter got him a room right away. Being the VIP, he and Queenie thought the room was a good idea, so she picked her handbag up and followed Nigel. Bonnie's smile went stiff. She bit her lip and saw them off, feeling green with envy. She's staring at him again. Leslie coughed slightly to catch her attention. Let them be, Bonnie. Let's have dinner. Right on cue, a waitress came over to serve them food, but Bonnie had no appetite. Just the thought of Nigel and Queenie flirting with each other in the room soured her mood. She thought stealing Leslie from Queenie would break her heart, but instead, Queenie got herself an even better boyfriend. Here, say ah. Leslie tried his best to cheer Bonnie up. This doesn't taste good, she snapped and turned her face away. On the other hand, Queenie felt instant relief as soon as she moved to the room. Finally some peace and quiet, she thought. She was just about to get some water when Nigel asked coolly, So, you're not going to stay at my home anymore? She blinked and nodded. My mom told me to go home. I don't want them to worry, so I'll be heading home tonight. Great. It's not like I want you in my home anyway, he commented cockily. Queenie smiled. Good for you then. Nobody is going to steal your snacks anymore. Though, it's cute that a guy has so many snacks at home. Will you still be coming to work, then? He squinted. She has returned to her family now. Guess she doesn't need the salary already. Is she gonna quit? Of course. You made me your assistant, remember? There's no way I'm letting such a great opportunity slip by. The thought of quitting never crossed her mind. Work gave her life meaning, making her days not as dull as they used to be. Don't be late, then, Nigel said. I won't, don't worry. She bit her lip and counted something with her fingers. Your snacks cost about $4,100, the clothes you gave cost about $1,400, and all the food you treated me to cost about the same. So, I owe you $6,900. I'll give you the money tomorrow. Queenie never liked taking advantage of people. She had spent his money for a while now, so she must pay him back, or it wouldn't sit right with her. Nigel froze up for a moment. Does she have to go that far? Is she serious about paying me back? It's all right, he answered generously. You don't have to do that. No. I do have to do that, Queenie replied stubbornly. No, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Yes, I do. And I will. Well, I'm not taking it then. Queenie laughed and stared at Nigel. Fine, I won't do it then. He stretched his legs out. I have never asked any woman to pay me back. She smiled and looked outside the window. The street lamps started to light up like fireflies flying through the city, and she was engrossed in the view. As she stared at the street lamps, Nigel was also staring at her profile. She was more beautiful than he thought. Queenie noticed the look he was giving her. Most women would have looked away in embarrassment, but she wasn't like any other woman. She turned her head and stared back at him boldly. She then rested her chin on her hand, not even once averting her gaze from his. No hints of fear showed in her eyes as she continued to stare at him. She blinked and pursed her lips, but in the end, Nigel blushed a little and coughed before looking away. You think I'm pretty, don't you? Queenie asked confidently. He looked at her again. She was confident and straightforward. Perhaps it was because she grew up in a wealthy home. Queenie was slightly disappointed by that comment, but she wouldn't beat herself up over it. She joked, at least I'm not ugly. Nigel froze for a few moments. She cheers herself up like that? He wanted to tell her she wasn't ugly. If she debuted in the entertainment industry, she would look better than most celebrities. But then food was served, and Queenie's eyes shone. I'm starving. She was about to take some food, but someone opened the door, and in came a tearful Bonnie. You have to help me, Queenie. Queenie stared at her estranged sister in confusion. What's going on? Leslie came in after Bonnie and quickly explained, You took it the wrong way, Bonnie. I never flirted with anyone else. That was just a joke. He tried to hold Bonnie. Bonnie reacted fiercely. Don't touch me. Leslie looked shocked, and Queenie was surprised Bonnie found out Leslie was hitting someone else up. Listen to me, please. You're the only one I love. I promise I won't say anything stupid anymore, he quickly promised. There was panic in his eyes. Bonnie snapped coldly, I don't care about your promise. Don't touch me. Bonnie, Leslie couldn't do anything about the situation. Bonnie was usually a seductive woman, but her temper was atrocious. Bonnie suddenly hid behind Queenie. Tell him off for me, Queenie, I don't want to see him anymore. I want to break up with him. Tell him to leave me alone. Don't drag me into this. Dad and Mom can handle this, Queenie told her. Bonnie started tearing up again. I'm sorry, Queenie. Can you forgive me? Leslie was starting to fumble a little. This is going to be hard to handle. Don't interrupt them while they're having dinner. I'll take you home. Leslie tried to take her away. But Bonnie jumped like a shocked little bunny. I'm not going with you. Don't touch me. Go away. Wow, if I didn't know better, I would have thought Leslie abuses her every day. Queenie frowned, and Leslie had no choice but to leave things in Queenie's hands. Take her home, Queenie. She's a little unstable now, so try to keep her calm. And then he left. Queenie turned around and sneered. I thought you loved him. Did you fall out of love? Bonnie held her tears back and put on a sorrowful look. Can I come with you, Queenie? I don't want him to harass me. Queenie still hadn't finished her dinner, so she sat down. After I finish my dinner, can we have one more set of cutlery here? I'm still hungry, she asked quietly and turned her pleading gaze to Nigel. A waitress came back in with a set of cutlery, and Bonnie started eating as elegantly as she could. She didn't even feel awkward at all. Gotta show myself off. Just a few bites later, Queenie lost all her appetite. Gah, I hate seeing her. She told Nigel, we're going home. Have fun, Nigel. I'll give you a ride. He grabbed his car key and stood up. It's all right. We'll just get a cab. She didn't want to trouble him. This is not the best place to get a cab. We gotta walk for miles, Bonnie interrupted. She refused to give up. Nigel left, and Queenie followed. Bonnie got her wish of riding in his car, and her eyes glinted with joy. When they came to his car, Bonnie pretended she had chest pain and asked, I don't feel well today, Queenie. Can I have the passenger seat? Yeah. Not like I want to sit with you anyway. If you have the passenger seat, I can have the back seat all to myself. Yeah, sure. Queenie got in the back seat. Nigel looked at Bonnie for a moment before turning his sight to the reflection of Queenie in the rearview mirror, and then he revved his car up. Bonnie sweetly told Nigel where her house was. He turned the GPS on and drove straight to the Silverstein residence. A gust of wind blew in through the window that had been rolled down, causing her hair to flutter. She thought she looked really beautiful with her hair swaying in the air, and she kept giving suggestive looks to Nigel. He's so hot even when he's driving. Her heart started thumping. Queenie was leaning against the window, feeling sleepy. The neon lights that zipped past her felt almost hypnotic and almost drove her to sleep. Nigel put on some music, then put his hand back on the steering wheel. Bonnie stared at his hand, imagining how it would feel if those hands were grabbing her body. She heated up. Eventually, they arrived at the residence, and he parked right outside the gates. Bonnie was disappointed that their time together only lasted for a short while. She got out of the car, and Nigel waited for Queenie to get out as well. Hey, why is she taking so long? He turned around and saw her sleeping against the door. Damn. She can fall asleep anywhere. He got out of the car and opened the backseat door, but someone slid down, and he quickly held her before she could fall. Queenie gasped and wrapped her arms around his neck, practically giving him a tight hug. When Bonnie came around the car, she saw Nigel holding Queenie in his arms with one hand on her hips and the other on her lower back. Queenie was wrapping her arms around his neck, and their faces were only an inch away. It looked suggestive, and Bonnie's eyes went wide with rage. She pretended to sleep and fall out of the car, didn't she? Can you put me down? Queenie was red. It was the first time someone was holding her with all his might, and it felt great to be held in his arms. So safe. He let her go, and she landed only to wobble and fall into his chest, bumping her head against him and bouncing back. Oh, she's gonna hit the door. Nigel held the back of her head and pulled her to safety before he closed the door. Queenie was embarrassed, but she said, "Drive safely." He got back into his car and turned it around before disappearing into the night. Before Queenie could snap out of it, someone mocked, "Well, someone is an expert in the art of seduction." Queenie looked up and was met with a jealous gaze. "I don't do seduction like you," Queenie answered and went into the residence. But then Bonnie suddenly said, "I like men like Nigel too." Queenie froze and turned around. "What do you want?" "Nothing." "You're not the only one who's allowed to have a crush on him," Bonnie answered innocently. But Queenie was infuriated. She hissed, "Don't even try to pull any of your tricks on him. Stay away from him."
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.